For 35 years, Michael Johnson lived in a house where silence carried more weight than words, and disappointment echoed louder than laughter. His story wasn't one of sudden heartbreak or explosive arguments. It was the slow erosion of a man's spirit, worn down year after year in a marriage that felt more like a prison sentence than a partnership. Michael wasn't a perfect man, but he had always believed in loyalty, responsibility, and perseverance. He was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, in a working-class family where men were taught that a vow meant something, that providing for your family was not just a duty but a measure of who you were. His father had worked until his last breath, and his mother had sacrificed endlessly to keep the family together. So when Michael married Linda, a bright and ambitious young woman he had met during his college years, he thought he was securing a future of mutual respect and shared dreams. At first, everything seemed promising. Linda was lively, outspoken, and passionate about life. She carried herself with a confidence that drew people to her, and Michael admired her independence. But as the years passed, her energy turned into criticism, her confidence into control. She became less of a partner and more of a supervisor, constantly belittling Michael for not being ambitious enough, not stylish enough, not wealthy enough. Michael spent decades in construction management, working long hours under the Texas sun, managing teams, dealing with deadlines, ensuring paychecks kept coming. He wasn't the type to climb corporate ladders or seek high social status, but he kept food on the table, a roof over their heads, and stability in their lives. That stability, however, was something Linda took for granted. As the years rolled on, her dissatisfaction grew. She compared Michael to neighbors, colleagues, even relatives, pointing out that other husbands bought bigger houses, flashier cars, or treated their wives to vacations abroad. Michael, exhausted from his work, rarely fought back. He thought patience would prove his love, that endurance would soften her sharp tongue. But Linda's words chipped away at him until he felt invisible in his own home. By their 15th wedding anniversary, most conversations had turned into arguments. By their 20th, they had become strangers under the same roof. By their 30th, Michael had stopped expecting kindness. Their children, 2 daughters named Emily and Sarah, saw the tension but didn't fully grasp it until they became adults themselves. They respected their father's quiet strength but often witnessed their mother dismissing his efforts. Michael stayed, telling himself it was for the children, for the family, for the image of being a man who didn't walk away from his vows. But deep inside, he was dying slowly. The breaking point came quietly. On their 35th anniversary, Linda planned a dinner at a fancy restaurant, not out of love, but as a chance to showcase her long marriage to friends. During the meal, she made one of her usual remarks, mocking Michael in front of everyone for being too simple-minded to ever achieve more. The table laughed politely, but Michael didn't. Something inside him finally snapped, not with anger, but with clarity. That night, Michael made a decision. For the first time in 35 years, he chose himself. Within weeks, he filed for divorce. Linda was stunned. She laughed at first, calling it an empty threat. But the paperwork was real, and when she realized Michael was serious, she unleashed a storm of accusations, claiming he was abandoning her, betraying her, destroying the family. But Michael didn't waver. He had given nearly 4 decades of his life, and he could no longer endure the misery. The divorce was finalized within the year. Michael left the house with only his tools, some clothes, and a small savings account. Linda kept the house, the furniture, and most of the material possessions. She thought she had won. But life has a way of humbling people. Michael, now in his early 60s, rented a modest apartment in Dallas. It wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful. For the first time in decades, he could sit in silence without being criticized. He could wake up on a Saturday and enjoy coffee without hearing complaints. He began walking in the mornings, talking with neighbors, and even volunteering at a local community center. Slowly, the weight of misery lifted, and his spirit revived. One day, at the community center, he met Grace Miller, a retired schoolteacher who volunteered her time tutoring children. Grace was warm, gentle, and carried a kindness that immediately struck Michael. Unlike Linda, she didn't belittle or demand. She listened. Their conversation started small, about books and community events, but grew deeper with time. Grace had been widowed years earlier and understood loneliness, but she also understood gratitude. For the first time in decades, Michael felt valued. Months turned into years, and by the time Michael was 65, he and Grace had built a bond stronger than he had ever known. They laughed together, shared meals, and supported each other through life's ups and downs. Michael realized he had not only survived but found love where he least expected it. Meanwhile, Linda's life did not unfold as she had imagined. She believed she could easily replace Michael with someone wealthier, more ambitious, someone who matched her idea of success. But relationships based on ego rarely last. The suitors she entertained quickly saw through her bitterness and controlling nature. As time passed, she found herself increasingly alone. Her daughters, though still respectful, gravitated toward Michael. They admired his quiet strength and his decision to finally prioritize his happiness. They noticed how much more relaxed and joyful he became with Grace. Holidays began to shift. While Linda expected loyalty, Emily and Sarah found warmth and peace at their father's side, often spending more time with him and Grace. The contrast was undeniable. Linda, once so sure of her superiority, sat alone in the house she had fought to keep. The laughter of family dinners, the companionship of a partner, the simple joy of being appreciated, those were gone. Her victory had left her with possessions but no people. Michael, the man she had belittled for 35 years, had rebuilt his life. He didn't have a mansion, but he had peace. He didn't have flashy wealth, but he had respect. And most importantly, he had love, a love grounded not in ego or control, but in kindness and mutual appreciation. Years later, when Michael and Grace celebrated their 10th anniversary together, friends and family surrounded them. His daughters toasted him, praising his resilience and his courage to seek happiness after decades of sacrifice. Linda was not invited. She heard about it through mutual acquaintances, and the news shook her deeply. For the first time, she realized that all her criticisms and demands had blinded her to the value of the man she had. Michael was never not enough. He was more than enough. She had just been too consumed by her own bitterness to see it. But by then, it was too late. Michael had moved on. His story became a quiet testament to countless men who endure thankless marriages, who sacrifice themselves for decades without recognition. It showed that endurance does not have to mean misery, that even after years of unhappiness, there can still be a chance at peace, love, and dignity. In the end, Michael Johnson wasn't a man who gave up.